Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our Engineering and Industrial Technology information session. My name is Mary Beulah, and I'm the director of Erie Together, which is a countywide movement heavily focused on helping more students become successful adults. As part of my role, I facilitate the Erie County Career Pathways Alliance, which is a group of local school districts, employers, universities, and workforce developers, all working together to help students prepare for future careers. Tonight's session is our first of 5, each focusing on a different career pathway. Based on registrations, we're expecting students from at least 5 school districts, VLN Cyber Academy, and the Perseus House Charter School of Excellence. We're really happy to have you all with us tonight. For students who couldn't participate, we're also recording this session to make it available to all the school districts after the event concludes. Our goal tonight is to help you understand career opportunities in the engineering and industrial technology pathway, which includes engineering, transportation and logistics, construction, and manufacturing. We want to touch on what students should do to prepare for careers in these fields, what kinds of jobs are available, and have some conversation about earning potential. So we've assembled a great team of speakers for you tonight, and we want you to ask any questions you might have while we have them all together. So before we move into the discussion, I want to thank 2 people who have volunteered tonight to help make sure everything runs smoothly. The first is Debbie Thompson of Strategy Solutions, who is providing technical assistance for the webinar. And the second is Erica Ramallo from Gannon University, who is an active Erie Together participant and has a keen interest in helping students succeed. Erica will monitor the chat to make sure we see and pose your questions. Debbie and Erica, thank you so much for your help. We've structured tonight's session pretty tightly, starting with speaker introductions and a presentation on industry insights from Janet Anderson of Northwest PA Job Connect, which is our public workforce system. We will then turn to our panelists with a series of questions we've developed and others you submit. If you have questions you'd like to pose to any of our panelists, please type them into the chat so we can raise them for you. Please understand, if you are here and can hear us, your technology is working. Here are some additional things you should know to help ensure today's session goes well. First of all, panelists, please make sure your camera is turned on and your microphone is muted, and remember to unmute yourself when you're speaking. Students and families, your cameras and microphones have been disabled, so when you want to ask a question, please use the chat function. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, we're recording this session so we can provide the video to school districts afterwards so they can share it with more students. Now, here's some additional information on submitting questions to the panelists. The chat feature is located in the main bar at the bottom of your screen, and it's labeled chat. So when you have a question, please click on the chat button and type it in. If you want to direct a question to a certain panelist, please include his or her name with your question. But if your question is for anyone to answer, just give us the question and we'll take it from there. We have an hour set aside for this event, but if we run out of questions before then, we'll wrap up early. If we run out of time, we'll send your questions to the panelists after the event for their response. Before we start, let's have everyone try out their chat. Please type in a quick hi or hello so you get a feel for how it works. Thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, and we want you to tell us your name, your position, and a little bit about your background and what you do. I'm going to call on each of you individually, and I'm going to start with Bill Pett. Bill?
Oh, good evening, and thanks for having me, Mary. Again, my name is Bill Pett. I'm a practicing civil engineer for the past 37 years. I spent 35 years with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation in a variety of roles, from construction to design to maintenance. The last 17, I was the district engineer or district executive. So that's how I met all the fine folks that are on the line here with us tonight. And I've spent the last 2 as the Vice President of Urban Engineers. Urban Engineers is a 450-person full-service engineering firm headquartered in Philadelphia, but we do have an office here in Erie, Pennsylvania. So that's a quick intro. I did want to get into, as the night progresses here, maybe a little bit about the engineering field and licensing.
Okay, Bill, thank you.
Thank you.
Julie.
Thank you. And thank you, as Bill said, thank you for having us here, Mary, and an honor to be a part of this panel. I'm Julie Smolsky from Logistics Plus. We're there, that big building, Union Station, right between, 14th Street there, between Peach and Sass, the one with all the flags on it. And what I'm doing right now there is we have a new venture that we've started, really helping on the PPE side of things, the personal protective equipment that we started at the beginning of this pandemic. So I'll go on a little bit further as this evening progresses as well into that side of it. But that's what I'm working on presently at Logistics Plus, is the whole medical side of things. And it's a new arm for us. So I'd like to kind of get into that. It's just something different for us. But thank you again, Mary, for having me.
Thanks, Julie. TJ?
Good evening, everyone. I'm TJ Sandell. I'm president of the Great Lakes Building and Construction Trades Council. I'm also the business representative for Plumbers Local Union number 27. I am a master plumber, and I graduated from Fairview High School. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, TJ. Lori? You're still muted, Lori.
Sorry. Lori Deaver, Workforce Development Manager, Director of Safety and Health with Industrial Sales and Manufacturing. I kind of have an interesting work background. I started in healthcare. I had actually 17 years in healthcare and safety, and then took a little sabbatical and finished my education, and I ended up in manufacturing. And so an interesting work background, but very happy to be here tonight.
Thanks, Lori. Janet.
Good evening. My name is Janet Anderson. I am the Executive Director of Northwest, Pennsylvania Job Connect, which is as Mary said, the local workforce development board. We work most often with adults, dislocated workers, and youth, but we also work with businesses in our 6-county area in Northwest Pennsylvania. I've been there about 6 years. And I have had varied experience from government to economic development and now in workforce development. I'm happy to be here with you this evening. Thanks, Mary, for inviting me.
Thanks, Janet. All right, so let's go ahead and get started then. So Janet, I'm going to start with you. Based on local data and your experience, could you please share your insights on local employment opportunities, employer needs, and skills that employers are really interested in?
Sure. So I want to say to all of you students and to your parents know this, but about 25% of your time as an adult will be spent working. So whatever you do, please take it seriously. Think about what you like to do, what you're passionate with doing before you enter into an occupation or job field. Many of us start out thinking we know what we want to do and eventually travel to something else and transition to a different position. Mine was accounting, and now I'm doing government and quasi-government nonprofit work. Northwest Pennsylvania, as the local workforce development board, Northwest Pennsylvania Job Connect, is responsible for a lot of information, labor market information here in the 6 counties. And I can tell you that there are a variety of careers in this 6-county area in the industries that we are talking about tonight, engineering and industrial technology. And if you are interested in that, I can tell you that we have openings currently in the areas of each of these industries. So for example, we have what we call the high priority occupation list. This high priority occupation list are in-demand jobs right here in Northwest Pennsylvania. This is an area where folks can look for employment and look for employment that will be family sustaining. So for example, in the area of engineering, we have jobs in civil, mechanical, chemical, environmental engineering. We have technologists and technicians. And depending on what you're looking for with an associate degree and beyond, you can make anywhere in the range of $50,000 to $100,000 a year. Transportation and logistics. There are expediters, there are truck drivers, there are light and heavy truck drivers, there are bus drivers, there are shippers, and these range in terms of the types of skills you need from a high school diploma, post-secondary, all the way to bachelor's degree and beyond. And you can make anywhere from $54,000 a year upwards of $100,000. I can tell you that Walmart often advertises with our folks for $85,000 a year for starting out in across heavy truck driving across state lines. So $85,000 a year is a pretty hefty salary for post-secondary education. Construction workers. We have carpenters, construction laborers, inspectors, plumbers, and you can go from high school to post-secondary, and TJ is going to talk to you about the opportunities with the unions where they help you you can make great wages in a construction industry. Manufacturing, you can be CNC machinists, supervisors, tool and die, quality assurance, HR, as Lori is, and you can go well beyond these few occupations that I have outlined for you here tonight. So I'm going to allow the experts in each of those industries to expand, but please know that labor market information does exist. It sits on our website, and you are welcome to access that information to tell you how much money you can make in each of those occupations. So talking about what it is that our employers are looking for now. What do they want to see, and what can you do to prepare yourself for employment in one of these areas, or if you change your mind in another area? First of all, it's important for you to look at what it is, as I said at the beginning, that you are really passionate about. Work opportunities will help you to discern where you want to spend your time. Participation in clubs at the school, teams. Teams will teach you leadership, teach you the importance of being a good teammate. All of those are good work skills, career skills. Volunteering, getting out in the community and volunteering will help you discern what it is that is important to you. And whatever you decide to do as a career, own it. No matter if you're in high school trying these things that I'm mentioning, or you're working at the local Pizza Hut, own that position and do it in the best manner that you can possibly do it, so that you learn more about yourself and the role that you are in. Be flexible. Learn to be flexible with yourself. Be willing to try things. There are many, many people that might encourage you to go in a direction that you really are not interested in. Be flexible with yourself, try these things, and ignore some of the advice that you might receive. It's okay not to know right now. That's why I'm encouraging all of you to try different things so you can become more familiar and know what it is that interests you. You have many mentors in your life. Your parents are your mentors. The school teachers are your mentors. Perhaps someone at church is your mentor. Your grandparents, parents of your friends may be your mentors. They may know you in some ways better than your parents do. So listen to that mentorship. I would not be doing the things that I'm doing today were it not for my mentors. I started out in accounting and progressed through many different positions until I became in the role that I'm in today. So listen to those mentors, look for those mentors. So what are the skills that employers are looking for now? Look and take advantage of your math opportunities right now in school, English, writing, digital literacy in the last year has become more important than ever. Here we sit this evening on Zoom talking to all of you out in your homes as we are in our homes interconnecting with you. So learn as much as you can about digital literacy before you leave high school. You have a great opportunity in front of you right now. Also, financial literacy, really critically important, and your employer cares about that, because if you are struggling, you're less likely to show up at work timely. Learn to be responsible. Again, participating in things like teams and work will allow you to be more responsible, and don't be afraid to fail. We all fail at one point or another. Do not be afraid to fail, but I encourage you to learn from that failure so that you can move forward and better yourself through that failure. The final thing that I want to say is that you have the opportunity to really, at this point in time, look at different ways and careers, take tours, even during the COVID-19 pandemic. Go to Career Street, check out the resources that are there for you. It's really critical that you invest in you, and now is the time to do that. With that, I'll stop and see if anyone has any questions. And then we'll let the other panelists talk more about the specifics of each of their areas and jobs.
Thanks, Janet. That was excellent advice. Are there any questions from any of the attendees for Janet before we move into the panelists?
We don't have any yet.
Okay. All right.
Mary,
So, Bill?
Mary, if I could maybe
Sure.
just add editorial comment. I think Janet did a really nice job identifying some key success factors. And I just wanted to pile on with a couple quick ones. Number one, go in eager to learn, pretty much on point with what Janet said. Take initiative. There are so very few that step out of their comfort zone to take initiative. It'll separate you from the pack, I guarantee you. And then the other thing, even if you're going into engineering or any other area, get your verbal and written skills fine-tuned. Again, it's a rare commodity anymore today, so it would be a game changer for you, I guarantee you. Anyway,
Right.
my 2 cents on the Janet's excellent comments.
Appreciate that, Bill. Thank you. Do any of the other panelists want to add anything before we move into some questions for each of you? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, Bill, we're going to start with you then with the first question. Okay. So, Bill, there are a lot of different types of engineers. Can you help us understand what some of those are and what kind of engineer you are?
Well, the very best kind are civil engineers like I am. Pretty much goes without saying. But civil engineering covers a wide gambit. It could be a focus on structural design. It could be bridges, highways, land development, dams, ports, waterways. So civil engineers get involved in a lot of building, perhaps a little bit more on the traditional side. There's geotechnical engineering, which is working on soil mechanics and foundations. The interaction of any structure that's on this earth, you have to know how it's going to be founded and bared. There's chemical engineering. Janet mentioned a number of them: chemical, environmental, petroleum, plastics. Plastics is big in the Erie region, so that's a growing field. there's bioengineering, there's aeronautical engineering. These are all founded in the same principles. I would tell you, I have a twin brother who we went to school together. He's a mechanical engineer, and the first 2 years of our study together were identical. And he could have done what I did and vice versa. You only separate, so you don't have to dive in. If you're interested in engineering at all, you don't have to know specifically what area of engineering to go into. You'll know that after a couple of years. You'll get your feet wet into areas that are very traditional for any engineer to take.
So, Bill, what interested you in engineering in the first place? And what are some of the things that you like most about your career?
Oh boy. Well, I was always good at math and science. So that was always a big deal. Algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus. I was always pretty good on that side of ledger and the sciences. And I guess I would say I was always curious as well. And I like to read. And I don't know if that's fundamental to being an engineer, but those are the kind of things. Engineering just seemed like a natural for me. I wasn't, and still probably wouldn't be called the most creative person on the planet. But engineering gives you a sense of logic and a sense of accomplishment when you're done, which I also liked. As far as what I've been grateful for in the engineering profession, it's really working as a team. Janet mentioned how important team is. And I have worked literally, with the exception of 2 of our panelists, I've worked with all of them to try to build something together. And I've worked with the general public to try to build something together. And it does take a team effort to get things done. And I love working in teams.
All right, thank you. Janet mentioned also some of the different opportunities in engineering that require different kinds of education or different amounts of education. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe what some of the earning potential from your perspective might be with different levels of education?
Yeah, I think if you went into college and got a 4-year degree, a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering, you're going to start out somewhere around 55 to 65. So that's a pretty good stake in the ground and what you're going to start in. If you aspire to get a graduate level degree, I got my MBA. Deb Thompson's on the line. Deb and I went to Gannon University together. She shamed me. She was so damn good. But we got our MBA, and you might think that's somewhat to the side of engineering, but at a base level, every project has a budget, every project has a schedule, every project has to be communicated to the clients, to the customers, et cetera. So an MBA seemed like a natural, at least to me. But going back to salary, again, 55, 65 to start, and upwards of a couple $100,000 if you're really on top of your game and beyond. Some are beyond that, especially if you're getting into the high-tech fields like bioengineering and AI, artificial intelligence. So you have great earning potential in those budding fields.
Are there engineering opportunities that you can pursue that require less than a bachelor's degree?
Yeah, sure. There's an associate's degree. There's also technicians, and Janet mentioned them as well. I mean, if you're good at AutoCAD, if you're good at geographic information systems, GIS, there's a job out there for you, I guarantee you. There's additional new technologies that are being employed all the time. Another piece of advice, if you're offered some challenges on your career path while you're in college, to take some of these courses related to software packages, do it. You'll be invaluable. Revit, AutoCAD, Civil 3D modeling, all those will add to your career if you aspire to be an engineer at any level.
Okay.
And I mentioned early on about licensing. I'm a licensed professional engineer, which means you have to pass a series of tests, which means I have personal responsibility and personal integrity into whatever I sign off on. There's value in that because it speaks to public safety, et cetera, when you are signing off on a plan that's been developed, and that gives you additional earning potential as well when you're licensed. But you don't have to be licensed. I'm just saying there's another layer there. You have to do the testing, and you have to use continuing education credits to advance your career. But there's lots of layers and levels to the engineering profession.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay, Erica, what questions do we have for Bill in the chat?
Yes, we had one question posed, Bill. Can you talk a little bit more about how long you have been an engineer?
Yeah, yeah, unfortunately I can. Yeah, it's been over 37 years. And I did start out in construction. If you're familiar with the Bayfront Parkway in Erie, I was the project engineer on site 31 years ago when that first section was being built. So, and pretty much I have spent most of my career on at one level or another on that Bayfront Parkway project. So that's sort of my key project, if you will. But again, in 37 years, I was lucky enough to be in construction for a decade. I was in design. I designed bridges. I designed roadways for a time. I worked in teams again, which was very satisfying. And then ultimately got an administrative job that really provided me the oversight of an entire region, which was a blessing. And again, that's why I keep referencing the folks on this panel, because they were all involved and they were all important to my career. The last 2 years, I've worked with Urban Engineers, a private sector firm. So instead of getting a budget, which I got as a public employee, now I have to manage a budget that means we have to do good work so we can continue to get billable work. And it's a slightly different venue, but it still requires talented people and a dedication to do the right thing.
Great, thank you, Bill. Julie or Erica, do we have any other questions?
No, I think you're good to move on, maybe to the next panelist.
All right, great. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Julie, I'm going to turn to you now. My first question for you is, you work at Logistics Plus, which is a logistics company. What does a logistics company even do?
That's a great question, Mary. And again, it's really tough to follow such great panelists such as Janet Anderson and Bill Pett. So I'll do my best to talk on the logistics side, but they hit so many key points that I'll even touch base on as well, because logistics to us is just moving freight from point A to point B, as simple as it sounds. We do it here domestically. We move it across the world, whether it's by air or ocean freight. But it comes down to every single skill, and I know we'll get into that maybe in a few moments as well, that both Janet and Bill had mentioned. It's just all about teamwork. I mean, sometimes we have to warehouse the products that we're moving. Sometimes there's an issue on the customs side where the products are detained, and we're not warehousing them, but we're securing warehousing in various different countries. But it's just simply literally moving the product from point A to point B.
Okay, what are some kinds of jobs that are in demand at Logistics Plus or within the transportation and logistics field in general?
I think Janet touched base on one that's so important, and we may not have truck drivers because we're more on the 3PL side, which is kind of the third-party logistics side of coordinating the freight. But there's truck drivers is such a truly family-sustaining wage in a profession that a lot of folks should consider, because there's some runs you might have that you can be home every night, or those you're on the road for a couple days. I know there's been an initiative, and I know it's something Janet's been working on with helping kind of promote more of a CDL pathway and that type of career side of things. But at Logistics Plus, we have folks from the accounting side of it to the software engineering side of it, to, of people that are just, helping out from the business intelligence side, to, like I said, the freight forwarders, that are moving the freight. We have logistics specialists on the, on the air side that are, international, on the, ocean side internationally, domestically. But like I mentioned in the beginning, and what I'm doing is the medical side of it, which is brand new for us. We started this at the start of the pandemic, where we worked with our partners overseas to secure, PPE, the personal protective equipment. So that's one thing we're working on. We never thought we would do this ever. And it's just something that happened to come about, again, because we're working with our folks in other parts of the country to do so. And, whether we have folks on the warehousing side, I mean, some days I'm in the warehouse helping organize the shipments that are coming in and making sure we're distributing those properly. So it's a wide variety. And that's, I think, the exciting thing at Logistics Plus. You're always wearing different hats and you never know what you're going to do next.
So how do you form relationships with other places in other countries, and how do you sort of get yourself out there in terms of being somebody who's sort of taken advantage of for moving these kinds of things?
That's a great question, Mary, because to be honest with you, I'm in the middle of an issue with someone in Dubai that's been attempting to give us a run for our money, so to speak. And as I'm sure we're all aware, they're on a whole different time zone. That's been entertaining at 4 a.m. when they're trying to sell us a crappy bill of goods, so to speak. So I've been doing my detective work this week. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But for us, it comes down to one thing. Our CEO was actually a truck driver. He worked at General Electric. And said, got an opportunity to do some, hey, you want to outsource logistics side? We're going to try this out. And he's always had that mentality of, don't burn bridges. And you never know. A lot of our customers overseas, or even, here domestically, are friends that we worked with over the years. I mean, I worked at Logistics Plus, 8 years ago, and just recently returned to Logistics Plus. I mean, we always, the CEO has established, like, because Bill talked about it, the whole teamwork side of it, where if things don't work out, you leave as friends, and somehow, some way, it's a large world, but we always have a connection to someone. And I think that's the most exciting part of it. One of our folks, actually, I worked with him 8 years ago. He was from Mexico and came in as an intern, wanted to just, see how things were through our logistics side of it. And next thing you know, he stayed with us for a few years, fine-tuned his skills on the logistics side. And now he's, an operations manager at Google and landed us a large, account there. So it comes down to that relationships as well. I mean, people say, do you compete a lot with other organizations? Yes and no. But in logistics, industry, you have to kind of watch each other's backs too, because there are some situations where folks do attempt to take advantage. But for us, we're so lucky to have folks all around the world. So if we have an issue, for example, in Dubai, we reach out to our partners there and say, hey, what do you know about so-and-so? And that's where we've had some, really opportunities to make sure that there's nothing weird going on. But I'm glad you mentioned that, Mary, because it's something we've been working on the past few nights.
Okay. Well, give us an example of something that you think is one of the most interesting projects that you've worked on at Logistics Plus.
I'm going to go with this whole PPE project. I mean, one thing it's hard to understand sometimes, because at first I didn't even understand it, where, when you're importing something, oh, it's easy. It's just like when you're going through the airport and going through security. Not at all. I mean, we have a customs broker, and Bill's talking about, in terms of his certification and him approving different projects. I mean, her license is on the line. So everything we import, she is responsible for it. And we had some major challenges just in March and April of this year with masks that were actually not what we were told they were when we purchased them. And, through the customs process, they were rejected. We had some frustrated customers, but in the end, we knew that we had an issue with a product that wasn't legitimate. So that was the, I guess, exciting part of it was, you don't know what was real, what was not, because the demand was so high for personal protective equipment at the beginning of this pandemic that you never know what you were getting. And if it wasn't for our custom side, literally these women were working 24 hours a day. I mean, we okay, take a nap, I'll cover for you for a few minutes, that type of thing, to make sure we secured those products, because there was so many just, bogus, products that were coming across. And I think an exciting one for me from this perspective was when we worked with the city of Erie to help them. They reached out to us and said, hey, we have our sister city wants to donate some masks to us. How do we bring them here? And we actually took the project on ourselves and made sure it went through every step of the way and cleared customs. And you talk about working together. I actually had worked with our Congressman Mike Kelly, worked with his office, because we had some issues with, you know, the government side of it, where it just wasn't, you know, being expedited and wasn't being focused on the way we thought it should be. And we actually had a chance to work with his office to make sure it was, you know, had the eyes on it that it needed to help bring those products here. So that was kind of an interesting story, because like Bill said, it's all about teamwork. You never know who you're going to work with. And I'm lucky to have worked with, like I said, majority of the folks on this panel. And to me, it's about those relationships. You have to have those.
So what do you think are some of the most important skills for people who want to get into the logistics industry to be successful?
I mean, like Bill talked about, you know, maybe math is always helpful, especially when you're working on quotes and, you know, working on different proposals, you know, your writing skills, of course. But to me, it's just overall communications. You know, I mean, it is the written side, but it's the verbal side as well. I mean, because we're dealing with folks from all over the world, from many different languages. And you talk about, you know, things being lost in translation. That happens so frequently. So that's the one thing, is that you have to be, you know, just people, you know, throw communications out the window. I don't believe in that. I think it's something that the stronger communicator you are, the better you're off in the long run. You know, Jan talked about the flexible side of it and, you know, owning, you know, your position, but you have to be flexible. And that's one thing that we pride ourselves on at Logistics Plus. As I mentioned, we joke and call it the plus in Logistics Plus, where, you know, it's like, okay, hey, you know, you're a little slow today moving freight. We're gonna need you to go over to the warehouse and you're gonna have to work on this project and box these items. I don't wanna do that. No, that's not how that works. You know, we wanna always make sure we're helping out. So if one department's slow, you're helping out another one. So I think it's communication and being flexible and having that open mind, because you never know what you're going to do next. I mean, I love seeing folks, you know, start off as, you know, a senior in college, junior in college, as an unpaid intern, you know, and they receive their credits. And the next, you know, we're, you know, paying them while they're, you know, finishing off their, you know, say, hey, I'll work part-time while I'm in school. We have a couple Gannon students right now doing that. And then next, you know, they land full-time careers, whether it's the, you know, freight forwarding side of it, the supply chain side of it. We have one young lady, she just graduated from Penn State Barron, and she's doing our procurement side, where we're working with some other different companies throughout the US, where we do a lot of, they say, hey, we need these items. We have a kit and we need these 10 items. And she's going around attempting to procure and secure those 10 items, bring them here, and we're organizing them in kits to distribute them to some of these major organizations. So you never know what you're gonna do next, but it's all about communication and just being flexible.
Great, thank you, Julie. Erica, do we have any questions in the chat?
At this time, we don't. We had one for TJ, but I think he is next and he answered it. So he can blend that question, the answer to that question when you talk to him. Thanks, TJ.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
Really quickly to the logistics. Julie hit on so many important things, but I just wanted to add that truck driving, the CDL driver, and she mentioned are working on a pathway for CDL drivers. There are many, many jobs that require a CDL license beyond the short and long haul drivers that I think it's worth mentioning to this group. For example, if you want to work in the city water authority or the water authority for the city and beyond, you must have a CDL license. Why? Because as Julie mentioned, that flexibility is critical. If they need someone to jump into a truck and drive to a location with water, they have someone on staff that can do that. If you want to get into construction, and I don't want to jump, you know, but this kind of crosses Bill Pettit. I don't want to jump TJ into your area, but a lot of times that CDL license will really help you get in the door. My son-in-law has a CDL license and he has worked for waste management, which was a great position for him, great benefits, great hours. He was able to be home at night. He now works for a concrete company and goes to sites where they're building bridges and takes the concrete and also does big construction sites that are going on. So don't underestimate some of those entry-level positions, because if you show initiative, as Julie said and Bill said, and you really work hard, you might be moving up the ladder to the top position. So don't ever underestimate those jobs. So thanks for allowing me to jump in.
Sure. Thanks, Janet. And don't mute yet. I do have one other question for you. What does it take to get a CDL license?
So the CDL license is a short-term course. The real challenge is that to really be insured and find a long haul truck driving career, you really need to be 25. And you need to work into that through generally lightweight, heavy, before you get to that heavyweight, so that the insurance companies are willing to insure you. So we have many local companies that are always looking for the light truck, light haul, whatever they call it, light haul, somebody correct me. But they are always looking for those, to fill those positions. And once you're in that and you start logging hours, then you get your CDL and you reach 25, then you can be licensed to do those long haul, which is where you really make a lot of money.
Okay. All right. Thank you. TJ, I'm going to turn to you.
Hello.
Hi. So here's my first question. You are a plumber and you're also the president of the Great Lakes Building and Construction Trades Council. What kind of jobs are available in the building and construction trades, and what are some advantages to pursuing a career in the trades?
That's a great question, and it has a lengthy answer, but I'll condense it the best I can. There are 14 major trade crafts in the building trades and a handful of specialty crafts. And real quick, I'll name the major ones. The boiler makers, the bricklayers, the carpenters, the cement masons, the electricians, the insulators, the iron workers, the laborers, the operating engineers who run the heavy equipment, painters and finishers, plumbers, roofers, steam fitters, sheet metal workers, sprinkler fitters, and the teamsters. There's significant advantages to belonging to a trades union. The building trades, we don't offer jobs, we offer careers. And what we offer is apprenticeship programs. So a lot of people say, well, what's an apprenticeship program? Well, an apprenticeship program in the trades is an earn as you learn situation. So if you get selected to be in one of these programs, you go to work in a trade for a construction company, and you work during the day, which you get paid, and then you go to school either at night or in block training, and you get your in-school, in-classroom and hands-on training through the educational process of that particular apprenticeship program. And what do you get out of that? Well, you get skill training that lasts a lifetime. The building trades trains the highest skilled construction craftsmen in the world. All the finest facilities built in the region have been built by the building trades. Erie Insurance Arena, the Convention Center, UPMC Hammett, Allegheny Health Network, St. Vincent's, Erie Insurance, our new office building, all those things have been built by the building trades. So also, these are careers that pay a living wage and benefits, including healthcare, retirement, and pension. Most of the programs last between 3 and 5 years, and when you acclimate out of that program, you become what's called a journey worker. And once that happens, here's a really huge advantage of what we do. Once you acclimate out of the program to journey worker, you're given a book, they call it, or a card. And that card is it can be used anywhere in North America. So if you're tired of Erie and you want a little break or something like that, and you want to go out to San Diego and go work out there, you pick up the phone, you call your union hall, and if there's work out there, they make the call for you and they get you a job, and you head off to San Diego for 9 months to work. So that journey worker card once you acclimate through the program. and I know that it's light years away for some of you to think about this, but there's a lot of really great benefits that come with the apprenticeship and having, you know, a career that pays a living wage, having the ability to retire with dignity. I know retirement's not something that you're thinking about now, but it's something that you will think about later on down the road. So those are the major advantages.
TJ, question for you. How old do you have to be able to take advantage of the apprenticeship programs?
You must be at least 18 years old. You can,
Okay.
in some cases, you can apply when you're 17, but you need to be 18 by the time the selection process comes in. But typically, the answer is 18 years old.
So are there things that students should do while they're in high school to prepare for a career in the building and construction trades?
Well, during high school, the two big things they should probably look at, they should look at grades, and, you know, that's one thing. But I think one of the bigger things is attendance. In some of the trades, when they do their application process for the apprenticeships, they ask for the transcripts. And we consider grades, but we also look at attendance, because the reality to us is we believe that if you attended school, you'll show up for work. So that's why we look at the attendance to see that. And you know, as far as the grades go, you don't have to be an A student. I was nowhere near an A student, but I got into an apprenticeship and I completed the plumber's apprenticeship, and here I am today. So, and on the topic about the age requirement, I'll go through the other requirements here, just so since we're on that subject. You must be 18 years old. You must be a U.S. citizen. You must have a valid driver's license, and you must have a GED or high school diploma. Those are the minimum requirements. And many young people, men and women, have gotten into trades apprenticeships straight out of high school. It's not uncommon for that to happen. And one thing I'd like to mention that, you know, many people may not be aware of, and I suspect that many people here aren't, is that apprenticeships in the building trades are scholarship programs. Well, what does that mean? Unlike for-profit trade schools, ours are scholarship. They're completely funded by the members of each respective trade union. So once you graduate the apprentice program, you have zero student loan debt, zero, none. It really sounds too good to be true, but that's the fact. Outside of high school, when you graduate, there really isn't any advantageous special program to get you moving in the direction of the building trades. But however, recently we've suggested to the folks at the soon-to-be community college that we are willing to work with them to create an entrance to the trades program.
TJ, what is the earning potential when someone starts their career and as they advance through their career in the construction trades?
That's a great question, but it's a very, very complicated question. And the reason why that is each trade, each skilled trade has a different pay scale. So it varies from trade to trade on what the wages would be and the earnings. So for the sake of explanation, I'll use my trade, the plumbers, as an example, and I'll show you the earning potential for my trade. And I'm going to share my screen here, my PowerPoint. And I'll share, and here we go. Whoop. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, so let me get to the slide here. Okay. I can't see my, oh, there we go. Okay, so here's, oh, I'm sorry. Here is the wage schedule for commercial plumber in my program. And on the column here on the left, that's the journey worker wage schedule. And The columns to the right are the apprentice wage schedules. So an entry-level first-year apprentice will go to this column on the right. An entry-level apprentice starting out makes in the paycheck $18.80 an hour. Now, in addition to earning that $18.80 in your pay, you're also starting out with benefits right out of the gate. So in addition to the $18.80, if you go to the next line down, it says health and welfare, and that's your health care, your dental, and your eye. So that's paid in addition to your pay. The next line below that is the health care savings account, which is a flex benefits card. That can be used to pay your prescriptions or your doctor co-pays, anything medically related. That goes in at a rate of 75 cents per hour. So as a first-year apprentice, if you total your wage plus all your benefits, you're earning on day one $32.02 an hour. So as you progress in the program, you move up, you graduate the first year, you move to the second year, you gain 10%. So your second year wage would be $22.98 an hour. You get the healthcare benefit, the HRA benefit, and then you get half the pension benefit. So you start putting into the pension plan for a total of $39.45. Onward to the third year, you move up to $27.16 an hour in your pay. You put into the health and welfare plan, the healthcare savings account. You put into the pension fund at 50%. And then in this year, you put into our retirement annuity or 401k at $1.88 per hour. So a total pay package of $45.50 an hour, and so on and so forth into the fourth and fifth year. Now, when you go back to the journey worker, the basic hourly rate of pay in their check per hour is $41.78 an hour. They get the full health care, the HRA savings, the full pension, the retirement annuity, the apprentice fund and training fund. Their total pay package for the journey worker is $65.65 per hour. Wow. That's a pretty good living.
Yep. That's
here in the area.
Thanks, TJ. That's great. I think we have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
So those are the numbers. Wow.
Yeah,
okay,
I was just gonna touch this real quick. A Plumbers Local 27 journey worker makes $41.78 an hour. So at a typical work year at about 2,000 hours, he's gonna earn $83,560 in his pay. If you add the benefits now, at $22.27 per hour on a $2,000 work year, you're getting $44,540. So when you total those two together, between your wages and benefits, you're earning $128,100 per year.
That's amazing. Erica, I think we've got some questions for TJ also. TJ, could you stop your share?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Mary, we do, but we're also running a little over time. Perhaps I can hold them and Lori can start, and then we can go back to TJ or send the answers to them at the end.
Okay, that sounds great. Lori, let's turn it over to you. Okay.
I just wanted, before you got started, Mary, to say, TJ, that was wonderful. And I think that's a missing piece when we're looking at careers outside of the college arena, military, that really the total benefit package and the cost to the employer. And so that was really awesome. So I just didn't want to forget to tell you, because I really think that gives not only the student something to think about, but also mom and dad as they look at, how do I feel comfortable in my child going into these, my young adult going into these jobs, knowing that they can support themselves, their family. So thank you very much for that.
Yep, thank you, TJ. Lori, okay, first question for you. You mentioned in your introduction that you came to manufacturing from a very different background in healthcare. What prompted you to make that change, and why should students consider a job in manufacturing?
Well, for me, it was, 15 years ago, I think. I don't want to let my cat out of the bag. That's okay. When healthcare was kind of going through those changes and middle management was eliminated, I got caught up in all of that. I had 17 years invested in healthcare, starting in an entry position and ended up running dental practices. But as middle management, that piece was eliminated. So I took the opportunity to finish my education. I went back and got a bachelor's in management and then went on for my master's in organizational leadership. So it's kind of interesting, but the beauty of it is that it's across, the skills and competencies that I had in healthcare, I just moved over into manufacturing. So again, it's certain skills and competencies that can be career building. And, if you're in one area or one field and then there's a move, a lot of times you can take that education, skills and competencies that you've acquired with on-job experience and be very successful. And as far as careers in manufacturing, it's because it's a field, it's an open field. And what we're looking at is an aging workforce. And so I think that we have to get people to relook at manufacturing. And so I had shared this with, that I wanted to have Mary pull this up, because as manufacturers and businesses got around the table and like, what can we do to promote careers in manufacturing? We developed and worked with a bunch of people around the table, creating, it's like a snapshot, and it shows you a career pathway. This one in particular is for precision machining. So, if you're looking, the college route isn't for me, or the military route isn't for me, I want to go right into a job. You've graduated from high school. And so as you can see, if you start at the bottom, you graduated from high school, you have a high school diploma, and then it shows, your position, say production machining. You have your high school degree, and then it shows to the far right what you would be making. I mean, you have your high school degree, and maybe you took a class, a machining class or a course in high school that would be taken into consideration as well. But the whole point of this is it shows the student, it shows mom and dad, it shows, okay, that if I take a couple of classes, then your earning potential goes up. So you'll see that you started in production machining, you had some technical training, now you're in machining level 1. So you went from $10 to $13 an hour, which would be, right now entry is more like 12. So then you took a class or two, and now you can be making between $12 to $17 an hour. Well, then you're like, boy, I really like what I'm doing. I want to continue to invest. So then maybe, you go into a 1-year program. There's different things that are available, different programs that are available. So you acquire more skills and competencies. And what the student is doing is not only they're adding value to themselves, but they also, the employer, potential employers, like, you're adding value to my business, because now, instead of you just being able to invest in yourself, your earning potential goes up. You start maybe just with a high school diploma, and you can end up being, an engineer. And you didn't plan on going to college, but you really loved what you did, and you just, one thing led to another. And, we all kind of touched base on that. So, but I thought it was important to show that so that there's a path, there's a way to help you to reach your career goals.
Thank you. Another question for you now, how is manufacturing today different than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago?
Right. Well, and I think that was one of the things that, one of the obstacles that we had to find our way around, is to look at manufacturing differently than it was when our grandparents, or maybe our parents were, I'd say more our grandparents, because it's so high tech now. We've got equipment in our business, we're a contract manufacturer, that are almost $500,000. So, and that's not, I mean, that's an investment in so that we can provide a service, we can open up more opportunities for the business as we continue, to invest in these high tech pieces of equipment, so on and so forth. And that is simply what manufacturing is. And I don't know where the students are that are with us tonight or how far this will reach out, but that's why we have that Manufacturing Day event at the Bayfront, is that it gives an opportunity for students in schools to bring their kids there and to show them how it's so different now than it was many, many, many years ago.
Thank you. We did have one question that, and I told him I would email him the sheet you just showed, but he asked what kind of jobs fall within a machinist position?
Well, you can be a production machinist, you can be a programmer. And again, when you're programming to do a job, that takes more skills and competencies. There's a lot of on-job learning coupled with, if you're taking a class. I've got an individual right now that had taken advantage of a work advance program, and that was 8 weeks. And then right after the 8 weeks, I put him into another class, and he's going in, and then after he's completed with that, he's going into another one. And at the end of this class that he's in right now, he'll be able to program machines to run jobs. So you start off, as it showed, as a production machinist, basically, the button that you would push. But then again, with additional training, on-job training, coaching and mentoring on the job, then additional opportunities would be there.
Okay. One last question for you, Lori. How would you advise students to learn more about manufacturing careers, and what should they do to get themselves ready?
If you're still in high school, take advantage of job shadowing opportunities. That's a big one. Also, if you're in a school that has, programs like a machining program, it's kind of like a track. Yeah, I definitely, try those out and see if that sparks an interest. And a lot of companies will have co-op opportunities. Right now, everything's kind of at a standstill because of the pandemic. We all, have to deal with that. But job shadowing is a great way. If you're thinking about something, we're open Career Street. You can go on to Career Street, and there's experiences there that are, whether it's a tour, we have tours where a group of students can come in and they can see a day in the life of in manufacturing, and we take them through the shop and we show them different functions, whether it's machining, precision machining, if it's in our quality department where parts have to be checked to make sure that they meet customers' specifications, then there's assembly and welding, and there's so many different areas that we could schedule a tour, or they could do a job shadow in. So many opportunities to explore. And to what Janet was saying, you try it. I again, looking at how my career path is crazy, but when I look back, it's always been with people and with students and getting them excited. And it's so important to love what you do. I mean, I can't imagine going into a job every day and not loving what I do. So you try something, oh, maybe that I don't like that. There's always something else. But the beauty is you're surrounded by people who are passionate about what they do, and they are here for you, and they're here to help you to identify what that is that you really think that you would love to do. It's just so crucial.
Okay, thank you. So we are out of time, and so I'm going to wrap this up. Erica, we had a couple of additional questions for TJ, right? Were there any other questions that we need to make sure we address?
None at this moment. We did have one asking about an entirely different career, but I've captured her name so we can respond to her.
Okay, so TJ, we're going to forward you the couple of additional questions you have for your response, and then we'll get them back out to the students. Does that sound good?
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so like I said, we're going to wrap up now. We're really grateful to all of the speakers tonight for your participation in this. It was so well done, and I wish we had more time. So thank you for doing that. And I also want to thank the parents and the students for participating in today's discussion. We hope you found it valuable. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is the first session that we've done, and so we would really appreciate you giving us your feedback. So within the next couple of days, I'm going to send out a brief survey to get your thoughts on tonight's event. And if you could please just take a couple minutes and complete that, that would be really helpful to us so that we can make sure that these events continue to get better and better as we go along. We hope you found this valuable. We hope it gave you some information that you can use as you think about your future. And again, we appreciate you all being here, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Yeah.